The sun sank behind the cracked skyline of Detroit, casting long shadows over the empty streets. At the edge of the city, a forgotten relic of education loomed. Harrison High. A school abandoned for decades, but infamous for rumors of screams. Echoing through its halls at night, rusted gates, bent and graffiti-stained, guarded the entrance. The smell of decayed wood and wet cement seeped through the air, mixing with the faint odor of burnt insulation. Journalist Ethan Monroe, camera slung over his shoulder, stepped cautiously over the threshold. Each footstep on the gravel crunched, loudly in the stillness. Local stories painted a sinister picture, students disappearing in broad daylight. Janitors who vanished overnight, whispers of voices calling out from empty classrooms. Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine, but curiosity pushed him forward. Windows. Some broken, revealed glimpses of shadowed hallways. Rusted lockers, long abandoned, lined the corridors, their peeling paint flaking to the floor. Ethan ran his fingers over a locker door, feeling the cold metal beneath layers of grime. He snapped a photo. The camera flashed briefly, illuminating the skeletal remains of the gymnasium visible through shattered doors. Ah! Distant metallic clang echoed, perhaps a loose pipe swinging in the wind. But Ethan knew the stories. At Harrison High was merely mechanical. Somewhere deep inside, the walls seemed to breathe, groan, and whisper secrets meant to stay hidden. Ethan explored the main hallway, his flashlight cutting through the encroaching darkness. Its dust motes danced like tiny spirits in the beam. Loud. Old classroom doors hung on broken hinges, some smashed completely, leaving only jagged edges. On the walls, faded murals told the story of a once vibrant school, smiling children painted in bright primary colors. Their faces now obscured by years of grime and peeling paint. He entered the art room. Broken easels lay scattered, paint dried, into crusty patterns. The faint smell of turpentine still lingered. On a shelf, a row of cracked jars, once filled with paint, stood like sentinels of forgotten creativity. A diary caught his eye, its pages brittle, scribbled with frantic notes about voices in the walls and shadows that watch. Ethan shivered as he photographed the diary, realizing he might be uncovering the thoughts of someone who had truly seen what lurked here. From somewhere behind the wall, a muffled cry echoed, a sound that could have been human or merely imagination. Ethan froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. The echoes of the past weren't just stories. Something here was alive, and it was aware of him. Pushing open the double doors to the gym, Ethan was met with a cavernous space, the ceiling arches sagging under decay. Basketball hoops hung crookedly, their nets shredded. The wooden floorboards were warped, some broken through, exposing darkness beneath. His flashlight beam landed on scrawled messages on the walls. "Leave now. They are watching. Don't trust the floors." He stepped carefully, every creak of the boards echoing like a gunshot. Farther he went, the colder it became, and then the whispers began, faint, incoherent, yet undeniably human. "Ethan, come, follow." The sounds seemed to move around him, emanating from the corners, the ceiling, even the floor. Panic rose. But professionalism and fascination held him in place. A shattered window revealed the twilight skyline outside. Ethan thought he saw a shadow moving across the bleachers. No, two shadows, circling as if guarding some ancient secret. He snapped several photos. The air grew thick, almost suffocating, and the whispers morphed into a low, mournful scream that seemed to vibrate in his chest. The next corridor seemed endless, lined with lockers that had long since surrendered their contents to dust and rot. Ethan's flashlight illuminated names scratched into the metal. Lily, Marcus, Stephanie, Tyrell. He paused at each one, feeling the weight of forgotten students. Some names were crossed out violently, others barely legible at the end of the hall. A classroom door barely hung on one hinge. Pushing it open revealed a small library, shelves warped and books decayed. Faint sound of pages turning caught. Ethan off guard. No wind blew through the broken windows. He walked forward, nothing. Yet the sensation of being watched intensified. The air was thick with memories. a tangible sense of anguish that pressed against him like a living thing. He noticed scrawled notes on the walls. "We are still here." His skin crawled. Ethan felt he had stumbled into the memories of a building that refused to forget, a building that had absorbed the fear, hope, and torment of everyone who had once walked these halls. The main staircase creaked under Ethan's weight as he ascended to the second floor. Graffiti covered nearly every surface, but some markings seemed older, almost ritualistic, symbols etched deep into the wood. The higher he climbed, the darker. It became shadows pooling like liquid. At the top, he found a long hallway, narrower than the one below, lined with dormitory-like classrooms. Doors swung slowly, as if pushed by invisible hands. The faint smell of smoke lingered at the far end. A single door remained closed, pristine in contrast to the decay surrounding it. From behind it, a scream erupted, raw, piercing, and unrelenting. It stopped suddenly as Ethan's flashlight landed on the handle. His hand trembled, but he gripped it, knowing he had to see what horrors lay beyond. The floorboards groaned. Beneath him, the hallway seemed alive, pulsating with memories and screams. Ethan felt himself being pulled deeper into the building's dark history. Every step forward was a descent into something ancient, something that had watched and waited for decades. Ethan's hand lingered on the pristine door at the end of the shadowed hallway. Something about it screamed wrong. It didn't match the decay around it. Slowly he turned the knob, the creak echoing like a gunshot. Beyond lay a narrow, dimly lit corridor that wasn't on any of the building's original blueprints he had studied. The air was thick, suffocating. Faint whispers grazed his ears, almost unintelligible, urging him to move forward. Walls that had once been painted cinderblock now pulsed faintly like veins under skin. Rusty pipes lined the ceiling, dripping water that hissed as it hit the warped floor. Ethan felt a pull, as if the building itself was guiding him to some long-forgotten secret. The smell changed, a mix of damp paper and something acrid he couldn't place. Shadows shifted unnaturally along the walls. Ethan's flashlight beam flickered as he moved deeper. Sudden cold gusts slammed the door shut behind him. Panic rose, but he pressed onward, knowing he had stepped into the heart of Harrison High's living memory. The corridor opened into a series of classrooms, each a frozen snapshot of the past. Desks were arranged neatly, though dust covered every surface. A chalkboard still bore the day's lesson: respect and responsibility. October 12th, 1987. The air was icy, and Ethan could see his breath fogging the beam of his flashlight. Objects from decades ago littered the rooms. A forgotten lunchbox, an open textbook, a small toy car, a cracked globe. In one corner, a chair rocked slowly on its own, creaking. Rhythmically, Ethan's heart pounded. The whispers grew louder, now forming words. "Why did you come? They are watching." He snapped several photos, documenting the frozen classrooms, feeling the weight of memories pressing on him like invisible hands. One desk had a note pinned. Under its old wooden top, "We never left. We are still here." Ethan's skin prickled. As the temperature dropped further, somewhere beyond, a soft scream, not human, yet unmistakably pleading, reverberated through the hallway. Pushing open the double doors to the cafeteria, Ethan entered a massive, cavernous space. Long tables lay scattered, chairs overturned. The faint smell of rotting food mixed with the metallic temps of rusted fixtures. On one table, a lunch tray, sat untouched for decades, molded food frozen in time. Suddenly, the lights from his flashlight illuminated a circle of shadows near the center of the room. They shifted and twisted, whispering indistinctly. Ethan could hear faint laughter, children laughing, then abruptly cut off by a scream that froze his blood. Dust swirled, catching in the light like tiny specters, graffiti and old markings. On the walls hinted at a dark past. Names, dates, and warnings etched deep into plaster. "Do not come back," one read. "They never leave." Ethan felt eyes on him from every corner. Something unseen followed his movements, always just beyond the reach of light. The library on the second floor larger than any he had expected, seemed almost untouched, as if the building had preserved it intentionally. Rows of towering shelves, some leaning, filled with dusty books, their spines cracked and colors faded. The smell of paper and mildew was overwhelming. Ethan approached the librarian's desk, broken and splintered, and found a diary left open on it. The handwriting was frantic. "They are everywhere. The walls remember. I hear them in my sleep." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind him. Books tumbled from shelves as if pushed by invisible hands. He spun, flashlight beam cutting through the chaos, illuminating empty aisles. From above, shadows poured down like liquid darkness. A whisper called his name. Ethan shouldn't be here. He realized the library wasn't just haunted by echoes of the past. It seemed alive, conscious, and aware of intruders. At the far end of the hall, Ethan found the principal's office. The door cracked and, hanging off hinges, revealed a room frozen in time. A large oak desk, papers scattered, a nameplate reading Principal Harding. Behind it, shelves of files, some open, some sealed with decades-old dust. As Ethan approached, he noticed photos on the wall, students, faculty, all staring blankly with eyes that seemed almost to lifelike. On the floor, a single file folder lay open. The contents were chilling: attendance sheets, incident reports, notes about disappearances that had never made the news. The whispers intensified, growing louder, almost pleading. Suddenly, the door slammed behind him, leaving Ethan in complete darkness except for his flashlight. A scream erupted from somewhere deep within the building, closer than before, and he felt a cold hand brush his shoulder, though no one was there. Harrison High had awakened. Ethan's flashlight trembled as he approached a narrow staircase leading downward, hidden behind a crumbling wall. The basement door was old, iron-bound, with deep rust streaks running down its edges. The air grew colder, heavier, carrying a scent of mold, decay, and something faintly metallic like blood. Long-dried stories from locals whispered through his mind. Children's laughter that turned to screams. Janitors who never returned. Shadows that moved like living things. He pushed the door, and it groaned on rusted hinges. Darkness swallowed him, and the beam of his flashlight caught shapes in the corner's crates. Broken furniture and twisted pipes. A sudden echo of footsteps ran along the concrete floor, though Ethan was alone. A distant whisper carried through. "The walls, they're waiting. They're always waiting." He forced himself forward, the staircase seeming endless, the air thickening with each step. At the basement's far end, Ethan stumbled into the furnace room. Massive, cold metal structures lined the walls, some still groaning as if alive. Rust flakes fell from pipes and vents. Shadows danced unnaturally on every surface, and the temperature dropped even further, frost forming on the edges of the grates. In the corner, a small door slightly ajar revealed a storage closet. Inside, old janitor records, mops, and buckets littered the floor. Ethan noticed strange symbols etched into the walls, circles intersected with jagged lines repeated across surfaces. A sudden blood-curdling scream echoed through the space, bouncing from walls to ceiling, then stopped abruptly, leaving a suffocating silence. Ethan realized that the building seemed to breathe. The furnace room wasn't just abandoned, it was alive with memories and fear, a place that refused to forget the horrors it had witnessed. The basement corridor stretched endlessly, wet floorboards reflecting the dim light of his flashlight. Walls were cracked, and the graffiti hinted at despair. "They hear you. Don't look back. We're trapped." I then felt eyes pressing from the darkness, watching his every movement. Shadows moved with him, not quite matching the shapes of the hallway. Faint whispers, soft but insistent, called out his name. Ethan's heartbeat accelerated. He photographed the walls. Every scratch, every symbol, every warning. Suddenly, a cold gust slammed the far door shut, echoing like a gunshot. A faint, echoing scream came from deeper within the basement, dragging Ethan forward despite fear. The walls seemed to ripple, bending slightly as if alive, urging him to uncover whatever the building had tried to bury for decades. Ethan discovered a hidden door behind a stack of crates. Pushing it open revealed a classroom unlike any he had seen before. The air was thick, almost viscous. Desks lined up neatly, but each bore deep scratches. Names, dates, and cryptic. Symbols carved into wood. A chalkboard displayed an unfinished lesson, faded. Never leave the building alone. Always. Dust hung in the air like tiny specters. Ethan felt a pull toward the teacher's desk. Papers were strewn about, with notes scribbled frantically. They see everything, hear everything. I'm trapped. Whisper, you shouldn't be here. Ethan's flashlight flickered, and he thought he saw a figure, tall and indistinct, move across the far wall. The classroom seemed frozen in time, yet alive, watching, waiting. At the basement's end, Ethan found a room covered in shattered mirrors, each reflecting fractured images of the space and himself. The shards multiplied his presence, creating dozens of Etha **NS staring back, some with blank, lifeless eyes, others screaming silently. Whispers filled the air, overlapping, echoing, leave. Join us, you're next. Ethan felt dizzy, disoriented. The mirrors warped reality, making it impossible to tell which reflection was real. Shadows crawled along the walls, forming distorted figures, and the temperature plunged. A sudden, high-pitched scream erupted, deafening in its intensity. Ethan realized the mirrors were portals of memory and fear, holding fragments of everyone who had vanished in Harrison High. He stumbled backward, tripping over broken furniture, desperately, trying to escape the room. The basement was alive, hungry, and he had awakened it fully. Ethan's heart raced as he stumbled backward in the room of shattered mirrors. Each reflection warped, twisting his own image into grotesque versions of himself. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening, overlapping with ghostly screams that seemed to originate from every broken shard. Sweat ran down his brow. He tried to retrace his steps, but the mirrors created illusions, hallways that didn't exist, doors leading nowhere. One reflection moved independently, pointing to a cracked wall in the corner. Compelled by instinct, Ethan approached it, his flashlight illuminating scratches forming a message. The past is alive. Face it or be lost. Suddenly, a hand shot out from a mirror, freezing him in place. He felt an icy grip on his shoulder. Though nothing was visible, panic surged, but curiosity and the journalist's resolve forced him onward. Harrison High was not done revealing its secrets. Pushing past the mirror room, Ethan found himself in the auditorium. The stage was decayed, curtains tattered and moth-eaten. Rows of chairs were overturned, but faint outlines of former students could be seen in the shadows like after-images. Trapped in the wood and dust, a spotlight flickered to life, illuminating the center stage. The floorboards groaned under invisible weight. Faint melody played from nowhere. A school band's old rehearsal tape, warped by decades of neglect. The whispers transformed into a chorus, a combination of laughter, crying, and pleading. Ethan stepped carefully, photographing the scene. On the walls, old banners bore dates and names, clubs, sports teams, honor rolls, some defaced with cryptic symbols. The auditorium was a mausoleum of memory, a place where the building had preserved fragments of life, twisted and haunting. A side door led Ethan into the janitor's quarters. Rusted buckets, mops, and yellowed cleaning rags littered the floor. But more unsettling were the personal effects. A small cot, a worn coat, and journals filled with frantic handwriting. He read through the entries. The janitor had witnessed events the school tried to hide, disappearances, shadows moving of their own accord, students never leaving. I hear them in the walls. They watch, always watching. One entry read, another, I fear the building. Itself, it hungers for memories. As he read, a faint scraping sound came from the hallway. Shadows pooled, converging toward the quarters. The whispers coalesced into a voice. You see too much. Leave or join us. Ethan realized the school wasn't just a building, it was sentient, feeding on fear and memory. Returning to the gym, Ethan discovered a balcony above the court previously locked, forced it open, and climbed the rickety stairs. From this vantage point, the gym looked even more ominous. Broken hoops, graffiti-laden walls, and warped floors stretched beneath him. Suddenly, faint footsteps echoed from below, though he was alone. Shadows crawled along the walls like liquid. A basketball rolled across the floor by itself, stopping suddenly near a spray-painted message: "They never forgive intruders." Ethan photographed everything, his hands trembling. The air grew heavier. Whispers shifted into low growls. The balcony seemed to vibrate with the school's memory, resonating with decades of fear. Ethan realized the building was no longer just haunted. It was alive, aware of him and marking him as an intruder. On the second floor, Ethan stumbled into a hallway lined with old portraits and yearbook photos. Faces stared back at him, some distorted, some perfectly preserved. He noticed that a few faces seemed to move, their eyes tracking him. Names were scratched into the frames, some crossed out violently, others accompanied by cryptic symbols. The whispers intensified. "They see you. You belong to the walls now." Ethan's flashlight illuminated a faint, misty figure at the end of the hall, a student frozen mid-step. Eyes wide with terror. He understood then, Harrison High had absorbed everyone who had vanished, imprinting them into its walls, floors, and objects. The building's memory was alive, a labyrinth of the missing, and he had entered its core. The screams he had heard were no longer echoes, they were warnings. Ethan returned to the principal's office, drawn by a sense of finality. Behind the old bookshelves, he discovered a hidden vault, its iron door covered in decades of rust. With trembling hands, he forced it open. Inside lay decades of forgotten records, attendance logs, missing student files, and folders marked "Do not open." The air was thick, almost suffocating, and faint whispers filled the room. Shadows moved independently, congregating near the vault as if guarding its contents. Among the files, Ethan found detailed accounts of disappearances, students who had vanished without a trace, teachers who never returned, disturbing entries about shadows that seemed to watch and guide events. One file stood out, its pages brittle and yellowed. Photograph of students frozen mid-step, faces blank, eyes wide with terror. A caption: "They become part of the building." Ethan realized Harrison High was more than haunted. It was a living prison, a vessel that consumed memory, fear, and life. Leaving the vault, Ethan walked down a hallway darker than any he had seen. The air grew colder, heavier, carrying faint echoes of past laughter, cries, and screams. Shadows seemed to stretch and twist following him. Doors swung open and shut. Violently on their own, the floor creaked under invisible weight. Ethan's flashlight revealed messages scratched deep into walls. "Leave now. Join us. Never forget." Whispers converged into one collective voice, pleading, accusing. Warning. Every step seemed to echo through time, bouncing from wall to wall, folding past and present together. Ethan felt a growing realization. The school had a consciousness. Aware of every intruder, it wasn't just haunted. It judged, trapped, and absorbed all who entered. Compelled by instinct, Ethan returned to the gym. The space had changed. Shadows now coalesced into faint human forms, drifting across the floor. The basketball court was eerily silent, yet every movement produced echoes of past screams. Messages, scrawled on the walls, seemed to writhe under the flashlight beam. "You cannot leave. We are all here forever." A shadowy figure appeared in the center, tall and indistinct, radiating an aura of anger and sorrow. Ethan felt paralyzed, yet he photographed the figure, documenting what might be the most chilling evidence of the school's sentience. The whispers crescendoed into screams, overlapping with faint laughter. The gym floorboards vibrated beneath him, as if the building itself were breathing. Ethan realized he was witnessing the collective memory of Harrison High, a haunted, living entity preserving everything it had absorbed. On the second floor, Ethan discovered a classroom he hadn't seen before. The door swung open to reveal desks arranged neatly, the air thick with decades of dust and fear. Shadows moved among the desks, forming fleeting human shapes. The chalkboard bore a single message: "You are part of the story now." Ethan's flashlight flickered as he scanned the room. Faces appeared in windows and reflections, students and teachers from decades past, their expressions frozen in silent terror. A soft, almost pleading whisper echoed, "Stay or leave. Let never forget." Ethan realized this room was the heart of the school, where every absorbed memory and scream converged. The building's consciousness was strongest here, alive, aware, and impossible to escape. Adrenaline surged. Ethan knew he had to leave, but every hallway seemed to twist, walls folding impossibly, doors leading to new corridors. Whispers chased him, growing louder with each step. Shadows reached, pulling at his clothes, hair, and skin. He ran through the gym, the cafeteria, past classrooms, and finally the main hallway. The rusted gates loomed ahead, seemingly just out of reach. With one final push, he burst into the cold night air, the building behind him silent once more, as if nothing had occurred. But the memory of Harrison High clung to him. The whispers, the shadows, the living walls, all remained imprinted in his mind. He realized the school would continue, claiming new memories, new victims. Ethan had escaped physically, but the building's echoes would haunt him forever.